The Middle East, a region perpetually on the brink, faces a new and ominous shadow. The possibility of an Israeli military strike on Iran's nuclear facilities looms large, threatening to ignite a conflict with far-reaching consequences. This potential confrontation, fueled by decades of animosity and mistrust, could reshape the geopolitical landscape and plunge the region into chaos. The world watches with bated breath as tensions escalate between these two regional powers. Israel, viewing a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat, has repeatedly stated its willingness to take unilateral military action. Iran, defiant in the face of international pressure, remains committed to its nuclear program, asserting its peaceful nature. This precarious standoff, a tinderbox awaiting a spark, demands careful examination. Understanding the motives, capabilities and potential consequences of an Israeli strike is essential to grasping the gravity of the situation. The fate of the Middle East, and indeed the world, may hang in the balance. The international community, acutely aware of the potential for catastrophe, desperately seeks a diplomatic solution. However, with trust eroded and previous negotiations faltering, the path to peace remains elusive. As the clock ticks down, the world holds its breath, hoping for a resolution that will avert a disastrous conflict. Israel's calculus for a potential strike on Iran's nuclear facilities is rooted in a profound sense of vulnerability and a historical memory scarred by existential threats. For Israel, a nuclear-armed Iran is not merely a strategic challenge, but a threat to its very survival. This fear, deeply ingrained in the Israeli psyche, shapes its strategic thinking and fuels its determination to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Central to Israel's concerns is the rhetoric emanating from Tehran. Iranian leaders, some openly hostile to Israel's existence, have called for the Jewish state's destruction. While the true extent of Iran's nuclear ambitions remains a subject of debate, Israel views these pronouncements, coupled with Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology, as an unacceptable risk. Adding to Israel's anxieties is Iran's support for militant groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, both sworn enemies of Israel. These groups, armed and funded by Iran, pose a constant threat to Israel's security and have engaged in numerous conflicts with the Jewish state. Israel fears that a nuclear-armed Iran would embolden these proxies, further destabilizing the region and jeopardizing its security. Furthermore, Israel, acutely aware of its vulnerability as a small nation surrounded by larger hostile neighbors, has long adhered to a doctrine of preemptive self-defense. This doctrine, born out of historical experience and a constant sense of insecurity, allows Israel to act militarily to neutralize threats before they fully materialize. In the context of Iran, this translates into a willingness to use force, even preemptively, to prevent Tehran from crossing the nuclear threshold. Iran's nuclear program, shrouded in secrecy and subject to intense scrutiny, lies at the heart of the current crisis. While Tehran maintains that its nuclear ambitions are purely peaceful, aimed at energy production and scientific advancement, many in the international community remain skeptical. Iran's lack of transparency and its history of clandestine nuclear activities fuel suspicions that its true objective is to develop a nuclear weapons capability. Adding to these concerns is Iran's uranium enrichment program. Iran has consistently defied international calls to halt its enrichment activities, amassing a stockpile of enriched uranium that far exceeds the limits set by the 2015 nuclear deal, which the United States withdrew from in 2018. This stockpile, while not yet sufficient for a nuclear weapon, represents a significant step towards acquiring such a capability. Furthermore, Iran's development of advanced centrifuges capable of enriching uranium at a much faster rate raises further red flags. These centrifuges, installed at heavily fortified underground facilities like Fordow, would significantly shorten the time needed for Iran to produce weapons-grade uranium, should it decide to do so. Despite international sanctions and diplomatic pressure, Iran has remained defiant, vowing to continue its nuclear program. Tehran insists on its right to peaceful nuclear technology under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or NPT, of which it is a signatory. However, its refusal to fully cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, and address concerns about its past nuclear activities continues to erode trust and fuel suspicions. Israel has a range of military options at its disposal. These include airstrikes, cyber attacks, and special operations. Each option carries its own risks and benefits. Airstrikes could be swift but might provoke a strong response. Cyber attacks can be discreet but may not achieve all objectives. Special operations are precise but come with high risk to personnel. Israel must weigh these choices carefully. Iran, on the other hand, has its own set of potential responses. These could include missile strikes, cyber attacks, or mobilizing regional allies. Missile strikes could cause significant damage but might invite further escalation. Cyber attacks could disrupt critical infrastructure but might not be immediately noticeable. Mobilizing regional allies could spread the conflict, making it harder to contain. Iran's leadership will have to consider these options in light of their long-term goals. The international community has a vested interest in preventing an all-out conflict. Diplomatic channels need to be kept open, and backdoor negotiations could play a crucial role. Sanctions and incentives might be used to bring both parties to the table. It's essential for global leaders to act swiftly and decisively to avert a catastrophe. The stakes are high, and the consequences of failure could be dire.